I can't stop thinking about the Drake and Kendrick battle. There's so many layers to the entire rivalry, but I have been stuck on the branding side of things, and I want to share my thoughts with you. There's a saying in branding, perception is reality, and when it comes to the Drake versus Kendrick rivalry, nothing proves it truer. What started as a casual friendly fade, in Kendrick's words, turned into one of the most talked about rap battles in modern hip hop. And not just because of the bars. The real drama? This battle wasn't just lyrical, it spilled into something much bigger. Public perception, brand integrity, and business strategy. And here's the kicker. Even though Drake's empire seemed untouchable, the accusations and the chaos left a crack in his brand that Kendrick brilliantly exploited. But how? Was this truly just about who's the better rapper? Or was Drake's branding misstep the real story here? The Kendrick Lamar versus Drake rivalry is more than just a battle of bars. It's a battle of brands. And here's why that matters. Hip-hop isn't just about music anymore. It's about identity, trust, and strategy. Artists today are brands carefully crafted and constantly scrutinized by their fans and the general public. Drake and Kendrick represent two completely different approaches to branding. Kendrick is consistent, deliberate, and unyielding. His audience knows exactly who he is and what he stands for. On the other hand, Drake is versatile, universal, a cultural chameleon who can be anything to anyone. And while that versatility makes him a global phenomenon, it also makes his brand vulnerable when things go off script. This rivalry was so big that months later, I still catch myself thinking about it. It's one of those battles that sticks in your head because it wasn't just about music, it was about perception and strategy. And honestly, it felt like something shifted in the way artists manage their brands because of it. That's what led me here to break it all down. In theory, this rivalry should have been a minor skirmish for Drake, something to just brush off as quickly as it came. After all, he's the biggest artist in the world, streaming billions and crossing every genre. But as this battle escalated, accusations started flying, and while many of them were exaggerated, some had just enough truth to stick. In this video, we'll explore how this battle broke out of the music world, became a branding war, and revealed vulnerabilities in Drake's empire. Was it all a mistake? Should Drake have stayed out of Kendrick's lane? And how did Kendrick's consistency protect his image while Drake faced fallout? Let's break it all down. From a general public perspective, Kendrick Lamar never intended for this to become the spectacle it did. To him, this was just a friendly fade, a hip-hop sparring match, a test of skill. His approach was deliberate, calculated, and most importantly, aligned with his brand. He wasn't here to tear someone down or to throw personal jabs. He was here to remind everyone what makes him untouchable as a lyricist. The genius in Kendrick's strategy was that it fed into the public perception of who he always was. A no-nonsense straight arrow, an artist whose authenticity shines in every aspect of his work. And because Kendrick didn't break character, there was no question about his intent. He stood his ground, let the bars speak for themselves, and in doing so, positioned himself as the composed, controlled victor. For Drake, this was supposed to be a lightweight match. Throw a few clever bars, brush it off, and keep making the hits. But as things escalated, the battle didn't stay contained within hip-hop's devoted fans. It exploded into the mainstream, and that's where Drake's real problems began. Kendrick's bars were strategic, but the accusations and the chaos around this clash started to go viral. It wasn't just hardcore hip-hop fans paying attention anymore. It was everyone. And here's the thing. Many of the accusations had a grain of truth to them, even if they were exaggerated. That's what made them so sticky. This is where perception became Drake's biggest enemy. The problem? Drake's brand isn't tied to a specific fixed identity like Kendrick's is. Most of Kendrick's audience and the general public see him as a real OG, someone who's transparent and authentic. It's easy to compare accusations against Kendrick to his established image. But Drake? That's different. Drake is a master performer. Almost everything about him feels like a part of a carefully crafted brand. He's charming, relatable, and versatile, but there's no clear, singular version of Drake that fans and the public can anchor to. So when the accusations started flying, people began wondering, what's real? What's just performance? And those questions cut deep. Even casual listeners, the people who love Drake for his hits but don't follow hip-hop culture, started getting involved, asking questions. And when the general public starts to doubt your brand, that's when things get complicated. What should have been a friendly fade turned into a public spectacle too big to ignore. In a battle like this, it's not just about skill. it's about credibility. And while Kendrick's consistency shielded him from doubt, Drake's chameleon-like branding left him uniquely exposed. In branding, there's one core truth. When accusations or drama surface, people compare them against their perception of you. The closer your actions align with your established image, the less likely those accusations are to stick. And this is where Drake's massive appeal ironically left him exposed. Drake is a performer, arguably one of the best of his generation. But the level of versatility creates a branding of challenge. His persona isn't consistent, and there isn't one version of Drake that fully resonates. Is he the heartbroken crooner from Take Care? Is he the global pop star of One Dance? Or is he the hardened MC dropping diss tracks? This lack of clear center means that when accusations flew during this battle, the public didn't have a definitive real Drake to compare against. And for someone with as much visibility and reach as Drake, that kind of ambiguity creates friction. People started asking, who is Drake really? And their assumptions filled in the blanks. Let's contrast this with Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick doesn't have to play multiple roles for multiple audiences. His branding is simple. He's a straight shooter, an artist who puts the craft first and keeps his actions aligned with his words. Whether you're his biggest fan or just a casual listener, the perception of Kendrick stays the same. Authentic and unshaken. Kendrick's consistency throughout this rivalry functioned as a shield. Any accusations or bars thrown his way couldn't dent his reputation because of how clear and cohesive his brand is. People know who Kendrick is, and his every move reaffirms that identity. So when the general public looked at Kendrick versus Drake, their conclusions were immediate. Kendrick stayed true to himself while Drake looked like he was trying to reshape himself into someone he isn't. Whether or not that's true doesn't even matter. Perception, as I said earlier, is everything. This battle wasn't just about bars. It's a masterclass in how powerful perception is for artists and brands. Kendrick didn't need to reinvent himself. He didn't step out of his lane. He knew that every action, every diss, every silence, and every move had to feel aligned with who people already believed Kendrick to be. That's why this win felt so clean, professional, and untouchable. Drake, on the other hand, is the king of adaptability, and that strategy makes him global. But, and this is important, when the accusations started flying, that adaptability worked against him. Instead of leaning into his relatable hit-making persona, he tried to match Kendrick's tougher, rawer approach. And for the general public, that felt off. The inconsistencies made people hesitate, ask questions, and reconsider how they view Drake's brand. So here's the takeaway. When the public is forced to measure accusations against your brand, clarity and consistency protect you. Kendrick's entire career has been built on trust and authenticity. Drake's career has been built on versatility. And while versatility wins in the short term, in moments of drama, inconsistency can leave you exposed. Let's be clear, losing this battle didn't destroy Drake. Far from it. His empire is way too big, way too commercial to ever be derailed by something like this. Even as the battle reached its peak, Drake was still racking up streams, selling out shows, and expanding his global influence. But here's what did happen. It exposed cracks in his branding, small ones, but visible enough to cause questions. The short-term problem wasn't losing the rap battle itself, it was how Drake handled it. By stepping into Kendrick's lane and trying to meet him as a tough guy, Drake momentarily disrupted the image the general public had of him. Instead of doubling down on his strengths, being the relatable, unstoppable hitmaker, he played to perceptions that didn't align with how most people see him. And those small cracks in his armor gave Kendrick's win a lot more weight than it should have had. Now here's the long-term challenge. Drake's brand thrives on his versatility. He can make a club hit, a breakup anthem, and a diss track all in the same year. But versatility is a double-edged sword. While it makes you adaptable and globally marketable, it also makes you harder to pin down. This means when something like this battle happens and your persona starts to look inconsistent, your audience struggles to know which version of you to believe in. Drake's ability to be everything to everyone is what makes him great, but it's also where he's vulnerable. The rap battle brought that vulnerability into sharp focus. Instead of staying in his lane, delivering endless hits and brushing off Kendrick's jabs, Drake leaned into an image that didn't feel authentic for the casual listener. And as a result, the public didn't just evaluate his music, they evaluated his identity. And that's really the biggest takeaway from this rivalry. Sometimes the smartest business move is to not fight back at all. Kendrick's calculated competition forced Drake into a position he didn't need to occupy. From a purely business perspective, Drake didn't have to respond at all. He's an artist whose very presence dominates the industry. Even a theoretical loss in this battle wouldn't have been enough to disrupt his momentum. And his audience is too big, his hits too impactful, and his reach far too global for this to have been anything but a minor blip. Think about it. Drake didn't need this fight. His audience loves him for being emotionally layered and globally adaptable, and endlessly catchy, not for being hard or street. So why engage at all? In a rivalry like this, Kendrick had nothing to lose and everything to gain. Drake, on the other hand, had his brand to protect. And that's why this battle felt like a miscalculation on his part. At the end of the day, Drake's empire doesn't rise or fall on a single moment. He remains one of the most successful artists of all time, with a reach that few can rival. But this battle underscored a key reality for every artist and every business. Clarity and focus creates resilience. Kendrick's consistent, focused image came out stronger because it wasn't disrupted by drama. For Drake, his sprawling, versatile brand offers huge rewards. But in moments like this, it carries risks that others can exploit. So what's the lesson here? For Drake, winning isn't about proving himself in battles like this. His wins come in the form of dominating the culture, the charts, and the business world at large. But Kendrick showed that sometimes staying smaller, more focused, and more aligned with audience expectations is the winning move in the long game. So where does all of this leave us? The Kendrick Lamar versus Drake rivalry was more than just a rap battle. It was a collision between two brands operating on very different strategies. Kendrick's consistency and focus allowed him to approach this battle without risking much, and came out looking stronger. For Drake, his response revealed the vulnerabilities of being a global brand. The spotlight is bigger, the scrutiny is sharper, and any missteps are magnified. In the short term, sure, Drake's empire remained intact. He still dominated the charts, sold out stadiums, and gained streams in his sleep. But in the long term, this battle forced fans and even casual listeners to reevaluate how they perceive him. The lesson here is one every artist, brand, or business can learn from. Versatility is powerful, but consistency builds trust. And trust, that's what sustains a legacy. I still find myself thinking about this rivalry months later because it wasn't just about the music. It was a branding chess match. And while it's fascinating to see how both artists approached it, it's clear that Kendrick played the long game more effectively while Drake got caught up reacting to the moment. If you take one thing from this, let it be this. Whether you're an artist, a business owner, or anyone trying to build influence, staying consistent and staying true to how people perceive you is the most powerful move you can make. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Drake should have stayed out of the battle altogether? Or do you think his response was justified? And what about Kendrick's approach? Was it masterful? Or was he just lucky that the public already trusted his brand? Let me know your take in the comments below.